I am Andrea, and welcome to MomTalk.
Hi, I'm Beth, and Andrea and I are moms, and we work at SmartSocial.com doing a lot of the research and finding good information for other moms and teachers that want to help keep kids safe online. We'd like to start our podcast with just a little bit of Andrea and I chatting about what's going on in our lives. So this week, my daughter came home from their school book fair at the middle school, and she picked up one of the $2 books with her own money. So that was really cool. But it's called Offline by Donna Cooner. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh man, I have to read that book for work. This is awesome. It was just really interesting to me that she picked up this book because we have been talking a lot about getting a cell phone for her. She wants to start babysitting, so she needs to have that communication. But there's a lot more than just texting and calling that comes with that responsibility. So we're about halfway through it. We're reading it together. But it tells the story of a high school girl that had some problems on social media. She breaks up with her boyfriend. The whole school sees it. She's pretty devastated. She has a great group of friends that kind of rally around her, and they make a pact to go offline for a whole month.
That's awesome. Yay for girlfriend.
Yeah, this is a really good group of girls. So I won't give away the whole story. I am hoping in the next couple of weeks I can get in contact with the author. I'm really just curious of where these stories came from and reading what these high school girls are thinking. Even though it's a fiction book, I can totally hear a high school girl thinking that. So it's just a good perspective for me as a mom, but hopefully for my daughter too, and opening those conversations to talk about what can happen on social media.
Do you think you could go a whole month offline?
For personal, probably not. I mean, obviously for work purposes, we're on it all the time,
Right.
But for personal reasons, it would be
I mean,
hard.
how would you get anywhere? I Google Maps everything.
Yeah, I rely on a lot of things. I mean, even just like events with friends or groups that we belong to, Facebook events, it all pops up on there. So I couldn't participate in those groups if I wasn't on it. So it would be a challenge. It would be a real struggle for me. I do take Facebook off my phone every once in a while. Eventually it ends up going back on. I don't know why I make that decision, but then I realize, okay, let's take it off again. So right now I currently do not have Facebook on my phone.
I don't either. I never have mine on my phone. I just log in every now and again on the computer, but it's not my favorite app anyway. I just feel like it's a time suck, You sit down and you're like, okay, I just need to check one thing. And then before long, you're just scrolling and scrolling. And we've all done that, all been there. So I just had to take it off totally.
Yeah, the temptation is so great that I have 30 seconds that nobody's asking me for something or that I feel like I have to be doing something. So I open the phone and it lasts way more than those 30 seconds that I had available. So last week I mentioned that I almost had that spoiler alert about The Amazing Race, and CBS website did spoil it for me before I could watch the final.
Right.
But yeah, so it's been fun in the last week just to keep watching what the Holdernesses say about their race and about why they are so present on social media and how it affects their families and how it affects both of them, and some pretty big causes and issues that I think a lot of us think about in our lives that they are bringing out into social media and helping people cope with it. So there's good, there's bad, but we just have to talk about it and realize it. And I think that's the biggest thing for anybody, whether it's a grown mom or a teenager, is seeing how much social media affects us and how much time we spend just scrolling.
The other day we got all the kids in bed and my husband and I were just kind of sitting there watching TV, and it was something, I think it was basketball or something I wasn't really paying attention to. And I hadn't been on my phone much all day. So I sat down with Instagram because I do enjoy Instagram a little bit more, but I was scrolling through, and before I even realized it, it was like, okay, your time's up. I had set my timer on it. Instagram told me like, you've seen enough. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like I was actually like really appreciative that I had set that setting in and that it existed, because I was like, I didn't even realize that I was just wasting my time doing that. Not that I was going to get up and do anything majorly productive, but it's still just nice to like, oh, I do. You're right. I need to shut that off now. Like I've seen enough.
You were going to take that time and be present sitting on the couch with your husband watching something.
Yes.
So if parents are wondering how to set that timer on Instagram, we have step-by-step instructions on our Instagram course. We label that as a course for parents, students, and teachers. And I think a lot of times we present that information thinking you're going to do it for your students' phones and help them, but it helps us too.
Actually, it's very helpful. Hey, so have you heard about this mom who challenged her son to stay off of social media for 6 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think he got a phone when he was 12, and the challenge was until he's 18, he had to stay off of social media. So he had the responsibility of a phone, but not having a social media account.
Yes, I know. And she ended up paying him, I think, $1,800. I mean, it is a big sum of money, but at the same time, it kind of seems like a bargain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big bargain compared to buying him a car or all the expenses that they have today. So I love the story. I saw something on today.com about their story, and I think he had an older sister who had some issues on social media. So that's where the mom came up with that inspiration, as she learned from one of her other kids.
I think that's great. My husband always joked that first kid's kind of a bit of an experiment.
That's why you need mom friends, and they'll tell you what they've learned all along. And we all just get better with every kid.
That's right. That's right. I do think it's funny. One of the quotes that he was quoted saying after he turned 18 was that he says, "It's hilarious. I feel like I'm 80. I can't seem to figure out social media. It's pretty embarrassing."
He'll figure it out. I'm pretty sure.
But I'm sure he'll get there.
He'll pick it up though.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's take a quick break and hear about our newsletters. So Josh talks about these newsletters every week during our podcast, but I think one thing that I want our listeners to hear is that Andrea, you and I make these newsletters every week, twice a week. So the content that you hear us talking about on MomTalk is a lot of what is in these newsletters. Our podcast here is just giving you some of the best tips and some of the best advice that we've found through our research that we share through our newsletters. So we just hope that people will subscribe to the newsletters in addition to listening to us, just to get the full information about all of these topics.
You're listening to the SmartSocial.com podcast. Each week, we help parents and educators keep students safe on social media so they can someday shine online. Make sure you join our newsletter to get the most up-to-date social media alerts at smartsocial.com/newsletter. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we send out the latest social media app resources that help parents and educators to navigate this challenging landscape with their students. Now let's get to the program.
All right, we're back. Let's talk about what we're looking at this week. So last week I mentioned that we have been doing some research about good deeds and how teens are using social media to do good things around the world. And it's just so many good, heartwarming stories. We've picked 17 stories of specifically of teens and how they use social media. So one of the stories that I think you and I both gravitated towards, the story came from actually not a teen, but a professor at the University of Florida, and he teaches a class about media literacy. So over the course of a semester, he challenges the college students, which at a traditional college like University of Florida, I would assume pretty traditional students of 18 to 22. So he challenges them as part of the course to create a social media campaign about something good. So it has to contribute to a cause or help somebody in their community. And through the course of the semester, create the campaign, they run the campaign on their social media, but they also work together in teams to reflect on what works, what doesn't work. It's just a whole semester of great reflection about using social media for a positive purpose.
Gosh, I wish every college kid had to take that course. I mean, can you imagine just how differently maybe social media in general would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. College kids are on their phones a lot. I've read a lot of different research studies that have been done about how social media affects college students, even how much screen time affects college students, actual statistics of how much time the student used on their phone versus how much sleep they got and how well they felt the next day. That was really eye-opening. We'll put the link to that study and how we reported on it in the description for this podcast below. So if you're interested in more of that in-depth research, we've got that for you too. So I think it's just teaching kids, like we talked about at the beginning, how to reflect on how everything is impacting us and what we do with what we see.
I feel like as a teenager, you feel like you don't have much control over the world, but you actually can. You can make impacts.
Yeah, those college students are definitely doing that with those projects. And I think it's great that that professor, number one, does it, but then number two is telling us about it. So hopefully more parents, more college students can look for those types of classes and experiences and make it part of their lifelong learning.
Yeah.
So one of the other organizations that contacted us when we reached out for submission ideas was called Digital for Good. And I want to just read their About Me section just to give you an idea of what they do. They shared with us about 20 different stories of students who have used digital media to do something good. A lot of their examples in the last couple of years have been very COVID related or very much about students being isolated or quarantined, but it's not just about COVID and it's not just about, being isolated. So they say Digital for Good celebrates students who are using digital technology to make a positive impact in their communities. We're shining a spotlight on student innovation and leadership to show the world just what kids and teens can do with the right tools, education, and encouragement. So I love that part about encouragement because that's what our kids really need from parents. They also need positive encouragement in their lives. And that's the stuff I like giving my kids.
Definitely.
I will put the link to that organization below. They do some annual awards. So if you know a teen who is doing great things with digital technology, that may be an organization to help give them more encouragement in their lives. Or if you just need more examples than the 17 that we give you at smartsocial.com, there's lots of examples out there. Just give kids a positive purpose when they're online.
And if your kid is doing something amazing with social media, let us know. We want to know too. We would
Yeah,
love to.
absolutely. We can update our pages all the time. So if we do get a great story, we may just drop it in there and add it as our number one example next week or in a month. So yeah, absolutely. smartsocial.com/contact, or you can email me directly, beth@smartsocial.com, and we'll reach out if we can use your story or use your example or your question to help other parents and students. So the other thing that has come out this week is Discord updated some of their policies. They told us about it a few weeks ago. We really dug into what they're doing. We can't see some of how it works yet until they go live at the end of the month. But there's two big things that I think parents might want to know about. I have heard a lot of discussions about Discord. So a lot of video gamers will use Discord. Discord operates on servers. I call them groups, so that you can have public servers or private servers. Public servers, anybody can join. Private servers, you have to have an invitation or a code to join it. One of the things that Discord says that they're doing now is they're going to help users understand the difference between whether they're in a public server or a private server.
How big are these public servers?
Oh, geez. Yeah. So a public server can get up to 100,000 members at this point. Yeah. So that's 100,000 people that your student may or may not know, probably may not know when it gets to that big of a number. So public servers can be huge. Private servers, I believe, have a smaller limit. It's all up to what the moderator, who is somebody who just creates the server. So most moderators aren't employed by Discord and don't have anything on the line other than just the server that they set up. It's based on who they let into the group and who they invite. Anybody can set up a private server. So a lot of times teens will say it's a private group, so I'm safe and it's just my friends. But if that code slips out on the internet or somebody invites another friend that you don't know, and then they invite a friend that you don't know, this group that you think you know who's in the group is no longer just people you know. And there may not be a way that you can ever know because it's all based on usernames. So you don't know that you don't know who that is. And that's the scary part to me on a private server.
And are these friends that they have made in the public server and now they're in a private server with them, but they think they're friends, but they really have no idea who that person is. So
right, they may be online friends.
Right.
And then the students might think that they are good friends, but really they have no idea who that person is. I don't think Discord is different from many other social media sites or groups that you talk or you chat with people. So a lot of our tips for parents are similar to other social media groups of teaching kids to not share information that is private, like their name or their address or date of birth. I mean, even simple things that you would think students wouldn't share with a stranger. You never know when they let their guard down on.
Yeah, especially when they think they're friends.
Yeah. So one other thing that Discord is changing this month is they have used the term NSFW, which stands for not safe for work. At one point, Discord was trying to make it not safe for Wombus, and Wombus is their little character that they have associated with Discord, but they realized that Wombus people didn't understand. So they went back to the common term of not safe for work, but they're getting rid of that completely. And they're just going with the term age restricted. So in their blog post talking about these changes, they said they realized that people all over the world don't use the same terminology. Even students might not understand that because they're not at work. They may not associate that with themselves. So the point of this is that they are restricting things by age now, which is interesting because there's no age verification process in signing up for Discord. So a student may not be able to see content that's listed as age restricted until they go into their settings and just change their date of birth. And suddenly they are over 18 according to the app and they can see everything. So I think that's just important for parents to talk with their students about. If something is listed as age restricted, there's a reason for that. And we don't want you seeing that type of information. So let's be honest with the apps and use those few safety precautions that they do have to help protect us from what we don't want to see.
Yeah, that's some good advice for sure.
All right, what is coming up?
Okay, we've got a couple things coming up next week. We're in the process of doing a whole overhaul on our Reddit guide. Reddit has changed a lot since our last update up to the guide. So there's a lot of new stuff out there. We really try to teach parents kind of the basics of Reddit and how it works and in the broad scheme of things. We kind of give you the big overview of how it works and how your kids are utilizing it and why they like it, why they're going to Reddit for information. Talk about how it's not necessarily the best place for your teenager to be and how easily it is to access inappropriate material. That'll be coming out next week. And we're also updating our student resource for negative impact of video games.
I'm excited about that update of the negative effects of video games page, specifically for students. So we have 2 full courses for VIP members about violent video games and non-violent video games, because there are 2 very different categories and how they affect us. I'm excited about this student page update because we are really trying to focus these pages that are super popular to students to help them understand it in terms that they can conceptualize in their own lives. So it's not just mom or dad or a teacher telling them video games are bad for you, you need to limit your time. We're trying to show them the cause and effect in the scope of how they use them.
Because like you said, video games can be very fun and a lot of time can be spent on them, but there are definitely some downsides as well that kids need to be aware of.
Yeah. Oh, so I haven't told you this yet, Andrea. The kids in my house have figured out our top 4 pins that we use for Nintendo Switch and for our phones and for the iPad. So this weekend I was wondering, you guys have played the Nintendo for a long time. What is going on with the daily setting? Nintendo has a great app that we have set up since we've had the Switch, and all of a sudden that setting changed and Dad didn't do it. Oh, okay. So, well, obviously we changed the pins on everything and they're gonna take a lot longer to figure those out.
Yeah.
But I think now is the time that we need to just have more of these conversations and not rely on the parental control so much and rely on teaching the kids good habits and getting them to self-regulate.
Yeah. Oh man, those pins can be so tricky too, because you want it to be something you remember, but then if it's something you remember, oftentimes your kid's gonna figure it out. Oh man.
Yeah, I changed the pin on the Android yesterday, and then I remembered I could just use my fingerprint. Android still has the fingerprint, so.
I do love the fingerprint.
All right, I think that's it for us this week. Thank you for joining us in on YouTube or your favorite podcast service. Andrea and I will come back hopefully next week with some more tips and ideas for all the parents and teachers out there.
Great. Thanks and have a great week, guys.
Thank you for listening to the SmartSocial.com podcast with this week's topics from Beth and Andrea. If you enjoyed the MomTalk discussion that we had today about all things social media from a mom's perspective, we invite you to join the SmartSocial.com VIP program. As a very informed parent VIP member, you will learn about the dangers and benefits of social media for your kids and get tips every week to keep your family safe online and, most importantly, to teach your students how to shine online. Find out more and join today at smartsocial.com/VIP. Please remember to rate, subscribe, and review so we can continue to help more parents and educators just like you. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. As always, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.